So we had this really fascinating request come in. The mission was to take the arguments of C.S. Lewis, and we're talking about the philosopher, not just the Narnia storyteller, and, well, make them simple.
Which is such an interesting challenge.
Right. To cut through all that dense thinking and get to what he was really saying.
And the irony is, Lewis himself argues that the most important answers can't be simple. So our mission today isn't really to simplify the truth itself, but maybe to simplify the explanation of it.
Okay, I like that distinction.
We're going to dive into his critique of what he called boys' philosophies, these overly neat worldviews that just don't hold up to reality.
And he starts with such a basic idea. He says that looking for a simple religion or a simple philosophy is basically a waste of time.
Total waste of time. Because reality just isn't simple.
So let's start right there. His big thesis: it's no good asking for a simple religion because, as he says, real things are not simple.
No, but they can look simple. And that's the illusion, that's the trap. He uses the example of a table, the one you're probably sitting at. It seems straightforward.
It does. I mean, I'm looking at mine right now. It's a solid brown object holding my notes, but hang on. Why is he so strict about this? For all practical purposes, this table is simple for me. I don't need to understand quantum mechanics to put my coffee on it.
And that is precisely the point he's making.
Yeah.
We mistake the utility of a thing for the reality of a thing. He says, okay, fine. Now go ask a scientist what that table really is.
Oh.
All of a sudden, you're not talking about wood anymore. You're talking about atoms, spinning particles, light waves bouncing off it into your eye.
The optic nerve, the brain processing it all.
Exactly. And what looks simple, just seeing a cable, as he puts it, lands you in mysteries and complications which you can hardly get to the end of.
So he's using that as a jumping off point to critique how people argue.
Yes. He points to this silly procedure that he sees people use, sometimes without even realizing it, when they want to attack Christianity. First, they build this really watered-down version of it.
The Christianity in water, as he calls it.
Right, something a child could understand. They leave out all the difficult bits: sin, hell, the devil, redemption, all the tough stuff. Then they attack that weak version.
And when you try to explain the actual complex doctrine,
They pivot. They don't argue the facts anymore. They just complain. They say, oh, that's too complicated.
and the argument becomes emotional. A real God would have made it simple because simplicity is beautiful.
Which is such a powerful critique of how we think. We confuse our own aesthetic preferences with a rule for reality. Lewis just says that whole premise is wrong.
Because religion isn't something God just made up.
Right. It's not a machine that could have been designed to be simpler. He says it's God's statement to us of certain quite unalterable facts about his own nature.
And if those facts are complex, the statement has to be complex.
You have to look at reality as it is, not how you'd like it to be.
Okay, so reality is complex. That's point one. But then he adds another layer that I think is even more compelling. He says reality is also usually odd. It is not neat, not obvious, not what you expect.
The universe isn't built to please our sense of symmetry. Our minds love clean patterns, logical progressions. But Lewis says a real thing will always have this sort of queer twist to it.
And his example for this is just perfect. The solar system.
Yeah. I mean, if you were just guessing, if you knew there were planets going around a sun, what would you expect them to look like?
I'd expect some kind of order. Maybe they're all the same distance apart. Or the distances get bigger in a nice, neat pattern.
Or the planets get progressively smaller the further out you go? Something that makes sense. That would be the tidy, human-made universe.
But the real one is just messy.
Completely. As he says, there's no rhyme or reason that we can see about either the sizes or the distances. This planet has 1 moon, this one has 4, then 2, then none. Oh, and this one has a ring around it. It's chaotic by our standard.
And for Lewis, that's the whole point.
That's the key. That very oddness, that queer twist, is one of the things that makes him believe Christianity is true. If it was the kind of neat religion we'd always expected.
He'd think we were just making it up.
Exactly. But because it's not what anyone would have guessed, it has the feel of something real.
So we have to throw out the easy answers. Simple atheism, or that watered-down faith that avoids the hard questions. We have to face the world as it actually is, complex and odd.
And that leads to what Lewis defines as the central problem we have to solve.
Which is?
A universe that is, in his words, obviously bad and apparently meaningless, but containing creatures like ourselves who know that it is bad and meaningless. That's the puzzle.
And when he looks at all the possible answers, he says only 2 are really serious contenders. Only 2 views face all the facts.
The first is Christianity. The idea that this is a good world that has gone terribly wrong, but it still remembers what it was supposed to be.
And the second one, which he takes very, very seriously, is dualism.
Dualism. The belief that there are two equal and opposite powers in the universe. One good, one bad. They've existed forever, and they're locked in an endless war.
And he actually respects it. He calls it, what, the manliest and most sensible creed on the market besides Christianity?
He does, because it takes the fact of evil seriously. It acknowledges that the world is a battlefield.
But there's always a but. He says it has a fatal flaw, a logical catch, and this is where the dive gets really deep.
This is the core of the argument. The catch is in how you define good and bad. If these two powers are truly equal, truly independent, how do you decide to call one good and the other bad?
You mean it could just be a preference, like I prefer cider and you prefer beer? They're just different, not morally right or wrong.
Exactly. If that's all it is, then the words good and evil lose all their meaning. But Lewis says that's not what we mean. When we call something good, we mean it's what we ought to prefer.
Whether we actually like it or not.
Right. And the second you say that one of the powers is actually wrong, you've introduced what he calls the third thing.
So you're saying that to judge between them, I need some standard that's above both of them.
Precisely. You need a law or a rule of what good actually is. And that standard, or whoever made that standard, is the real God. It's higher up than the two powers you started with. Dualism collapses under its own logic.
That's fascinating. But he also comes at it from another angle by looking at what badness even is. He says you can't be bad just for the sake of being bad.
You can't. He says to look at the world, look at real evil. Why are people cruel?
Well, they're doing it for pleasure, what he'd call sadism. Or they're doing it for some kind of gain, for power or money or safety.
And here's the crucial step. Pleasure, money, power, safety. In and of themselves, are they good or bad?
They're good things. A desire for safety isn't evil.
Of course not. They are good things. The evil only comes from how you pursue them, in the wrong way or too much, or at someone else's expense.
So even the worst villain is just chasing a twisted version of something that was originally good.
Yes. Badness, he says, is only spoiled goodness. It's never an original thing. Goodness can be good for its own sake. Badness needs something good to exist first, so it has something to spoil.
Which is the final nail in the coffin for dualism. Evil is a parasite.
It's a parasite. The bad power, to do anything, needs existence. It needs intelligence. It needs will. But where does it get those things?
From the good power. Because existence and intelligence are themselves good.
It has to borrow or steal from its opponent, even to be bad. It's not independent at all. It's a corruption of something that already exists.
And this logic directly explains a core Christian idea.
It explains why Christianity has always taught that the devil is a fallen angel. That doctrine isn't just a story, it's a philosophical recognition that evil is a parasite, not an original thing.
Wow.
So dualism, in that strict sense, it just doesn't work.
But Lewis is quick to say that Christianity is much closer to dualism than a lot of people think. It agrees the universe is at war.
It just changes the nature of the war. That's the key.
Yeah.
Dualism sees a world war between two separate, equal countries. Christianity sees a civil war.
A rebellion.
A rebellion. We're living in what he calls occupied territory. This part of the universe belongs to the rightful king, but it's currently held by the enemy.
Which leads to that incredible metaphor he uses. The story of Christianity is the story of the rightful king who lands here in disguise.
And he's calling us to join a great campaign of sabotage.
A resistance movement.
Yes, and suddenly things like going to church make sense in this really exciting way. It's like listening into the secret wireless from our friends, getting our orders. It means you have to take the idea of the devil seriously again. Not a cartoon with horns, but the reality of a powerful spirit who was created good and went wrong.
Because the war is real. You can't ignore the enemy general just because it's not fashionable to talk about him.
Exactly. So what Lewis does, he gives us this framework for facing reality as it actually is. It's complex, it's strange, and it's asymmetrical. And he shows that only by understanding evil as this parasitic force can we really make sense of the world. He simplifies the explanation for us, but he never ever simplifies the truth.
And he leaves us with this final, really chilling thought about that evil spirit. He says, if you really want to get to know the devil better, don't worry, if you really want to, you will. Whether you'll like it when you do is another question entirely.
A very fitting warning from Lewis. A reminder that some knowledge comes at a very high price.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the arguments of C.S. Lewis. Now it's your turn to go and explore these ideas even further.